that dreaded sniffly nose. Anybody else's kids come home with those? I feel like our son has come home with one from just about every church service in the last few months, but that's okay. His immune system is young and he's building natural immunity to things as he discovers them and is exposed to them. And that's how the body is designed to work. But let's talk about some things that Dr. Mom can do or pull out of her pocket to help the kids get well and stay well. Obviously, our focus is keeping them above that wellness line and being able to put our time and focus into just a daily preventative type thing rather than being reactive to being sick. We want to focus on being proactive and being well. So, let's talk about the root cause of sickness. I feel like in today's medical world, we chase so much after symptoms that we don't get to what's actually causing the problem. And when you don't get to what's causing the problem, you end up chasing those symptoms over and over and over again. And then our children get thrown labels with things like chronic this or chronic that, or they get sent for different types of treatments or procedures that they may not necessarily need if their bodies had what it needed to stay well in the first place. So one thing that really is something that I want to raise awareness with in parents and grandparents and anyone who houses a child or interacts with them for a lot of time in a week is body burden. This is a term I wasn't familiar with even just 4 years ago. But body burden is when the toxic substances that are in our lives build up to a point in our body that it cannot handle it anymore, and it starts to show those symptoms and break down and ask for help. The problem is we're not taught to read these symptoms, and then that's when we start trying to slap Band-Aid after Band-Aid after Band-Aid on top of the problem. So some of these products that can cause body burden are our personal care products because of the ingredients in them. Our laundry care products, those are some of the most toxic things in the typical American home. You guys, a rooster is literally walking in front of my window. We call him Tom because our friends were here and their daughter called him a turkey, and so it's kind of a running joke. But anyway, I just thought I'd share that because that's not something I see walk by my window every day, and he's right behind where I'm recording, and I just couldn't ignore it. Anyhow, back to what we were talking about. I hope that was some comical relief for you. So our personal care products, our laundry, this kind of product is some of the most toxic in the American home, like I said. Our makeup products, which you say, okay, but not on kids. Well, how old are your kids? If you have daughters, are they starting to explore with makeup? Are you teaching them how to do that? There are a ton of chemicals and terrible things for the skin in makeup. What about perfumes and the fragrance in there? Fragrance is a word that covers thousands of chemicals that companies do not have to disclose to you, and they do so much harm to our body over time. Have you ever noticed that, do you experience, or does someone you know experience almost instant headaches or headaches after being around a strongly fragranced area for a while? Maybe it's someone's wearing a strong perfume, or maybe it's walking into a candle store or a personal care store that is full of scents. My husband, Jared, cannot handle that. When we first met, that was like one of the first things I learned about him, was that he couldn't handle perfume and he couldn't handle candles. That was no big deal because I wasn't really highly into either one of them, and I'm thankful for that, even though I didn't know at the time what that could do to me. At least I wasn't being super exposed to that. But I did have like Glade spray and that sort of thing in my home, and none of those are good either. So just think about where all those chemicals could be coming from, your cleaners, all the things in your home. So some of the most toxic things are candles and air fresheners. So if you have those in your home, please go unplug them. Please stop lighting that candle. You can swap them out for healthy options that smell good. They still give you that ambiance, but they're not tearing down your body and your kids. Also, a root cause is that the children are lacking their vitamins or minerals. Our standard American diet is junk, okay? It's garbage. It's full of so much nasty things that our bodies aren't getting those nutrients we need. And if we do have the nutrients we need, our bodies are not able to absorb them because they're not quite like they should be in the food we have because they've been so modified over the last couple of decades. So those are some things to take into consideration. Also, just poor diet in general. And you may say, I feed my kid 3 square meals a day. That may be true. But if you do look at the actual makeup of these foods and look at the ingredients in them, they're not doing you or your kids any favors. Especially be on the lookout for things like sugars and food dyes. They are some of the most toxic things to the body. And sugar, 2 teaspoons of sugar will dampen the immune system for up to 5 hours. So when you look at what you're feeding your children, be aware of the names that sugar can be labeled under, because it's not just called sugar. It's called dextrose. It's called high fructose corn syrup. Sucralose is an artificial sweetener, which is even worse. Aspartame is another one of those. Just be on the lookout for those kind of things. And just to keep it super simple, look at the amount of added sugar in a product. Natural occurring sugars are okay. We don't want to consume a lot of those. But when it comes to adding that refined and processed sugar, you're really, really not helping that immune system to support yourself or your child. So let's be proactive. Like, those are some things we want to avoid, but let's be proactive because that's the best thing we can do for our kids. So switch out those toxic products. There are a lot of companies out there that claim to have natural products. That's a matter of consumer beware. You have to learn to read labels, and it feels overwhelming at first, but I have found that you quickly catch on to the things that should not be in these products. If it says fragrance at all, you don't want it because that means it has those chemicals that they don't have to disclose to you. And if, in my personal opinion, so take this for what it's worth, if a company is using a word to cover something up and not tell me what's there, why should I trust that company? It just puts that question in my mind. And again, that's just my personal opinion. But if a product says fragrance, I won't have anything to do with it. Also, look at adding some supplements to your child's diet, because our foods are what they are these days. Even if we are eating as healthy as we can, we probably still need some supplementation of some nutrient somewhere. Some of the most common deficiencies are magnesium, vitamin D, calcium, those types of things. And it's fascinating that the vitamins and minerals really, they kind of work hand in hand, almost like a cog. You need one to absorb and use the other. So you need vitamin D to absorb calcium. You need vitamin K to work with vitamin D. There's many examples of that, and I'm not going to keep going because I'll probably end up pairing the wrong ones because I don't have them written down. But just look at those kind of things. If you're taking vitamins or some kind of supplement that's not pairing those things together, then your body is not absorbing them and it doesn't know what to do. Another thing to watch for is make sure it's the real version of that particular vitamin or mineral. One common one that I see all the time that I really don't think people know about is a vitamin or something that supposedly has a vitamin infused into it will contain folic acid. And that is a synthetic version of folate, which is a B vitamin. You need the folate, not the folic acid. Your body doesn't know what to do with folic acid because it's a synthetic substance. So you could be giving your body that every single day, but it's struggling to actually use it because it's not, it's like speaking a foreign language to your body. Your body speaks natural and it knows what to do with those because they were created to work together. So give it the most natural version of the nutrients that it needs. Another thing you can do is adjust the diet. And this may cause some backlash with your family, especially kids, if they're used to particular things and now you're sliding away from them. Make one change at a time. Don't overhaul everything at once. It's a journey. Health is a step by step journey over the rest of your life, really, because you learn things as you go. But begin to switch things out. Begin to opt for things that aren't sweetened, and then add a natural sweetener on your own. So example, my husband loves applesauce. And when we learned how toxic sugar is to our body, we switched to unsweetened organic applesauce. And now I add a stevia-based sweetener, it's called Pure, to that applesauce. Well, actually, he adds it because he serves it up on his own. But we've chosen to do that, and then he can drop some cinnamon or whatever in there that he wants with it. But it removes that extra sugar content, and then we can sub something else in there. So little changes like that. And if it's literally just that one change, and it takes you a month to get your child to accept that, then give it that month, and then the next month start on something else. It's okay to take this little step by little step, because along the way, those little steps are going to add up. But some things that you can easily add to their diet that will start to benefit them as you begin to make other swaps would include citrus fruit, onions, broccoli, avocado, proteins, and enzymes. So a couple of reasons why citrus is high in flavonoids, and flavonoids are amazing for supporting the body's natural defenses. They have all sorts of health benefits that have been studied and documented. So just go to pubmed.gov, pubmed.gov. This is a peer-reviewed medical study website, and just search the word flavonoids, FLAVAONIDS. Spelling's not a thing, had to make sure I got that right. Go search those and you can see their definition of what one is, or you can find me on social media at Kristen L. Jeffers on Instagram. And I have a recent post about flavonoids with the definition from PubMed and then some foods that contain them. Broccoli, these are part of a type of a family of foods that have been shown to have immune boosting benefits and potentially anti-cancer properties. So go do some research on broccoli and some of those other like deep leafy vegetables like kale and that sort of thing. Avocados, they have healthy fats, which children really need when they're in developmental stages. Also, we need them as adults. Like our body, protein is one of the fuels that our body needs to get through the day, but we want a clean source of that. Nutritional shakes are not what you want when you're looking for protein. They contain a ton of added sugars under multiple names. They contain a carcinogenic substance in many of the popular ones out there. They have synthetic food flavorings, food dyes. They are awful for you. So watch what's being put into these things that are being marketed as healthy. You can find healthy protein powders that are plant-based that then you can use to make shakes at home. And yes, it may be a little more work intensive. It may take you a few more steps than opening a pre-mixed and made shake, but it's your body's going to thank you. There's going to be long-term benefits versus long-term damage thinking you're doing something good for yourself. Also, berries, those are really good for immunity as well. And then enzymes. The body needs enzymes. Enzymes control a host of body functions, but they also play a huge part in our digestion. If you have a child who really needs some digestive support, I would highly encourage you to look into enzymes. There's different enzymes that help with different types of digestion, or digest different types of food is what I meant. So for me personally, the enzyme lactase is huge because I struggle with dairy products. So lactase is the enzyme that helps us digest lactose. So that's important for me to have. Amylase, cellulase, protease, I believe is how it's pronounced. Those are all different enzymes that help break down different things. And I did not write down which were which because I didn't want to really be reading off a script. But just go do some searches about what those are and what they digest. Then you can also support the body outside of like what you're putting in and on it. But some of this would include in and on. But just some general things that I do that are pretty easy, really, that help my little guy stay well. So detox baths are his favorite thing because he gets to play in the tub. And what little kid doesn't like being shamoo and like coating the bathroom floor in water, but it's helping his immune system. So what I do is I use a cup of plain Epsom salts. You want plain because otherwise you're going to have fragrance in them, and we've already talked about how bad that is. So plain Epsom salt, 1 cup, and then 1 cup of baking soda. This is a natural detoxing agent, so it helps to pull the stuff that should not be in the body out, and it's really, really gentle. Like, it doesn't hurt them. Make sure they stay hydrated when you do this, but it's super gentle. It's super easy. It feels good. They're not going to like bulk at it. I also like to add essential oils to these. Some that would be like great for his immune system, or maybe help his breathing or whatever I may need. And then I dump the cup of each. I mix them together, add the oils, pour it in the water, and then let him sit for 20 to 30 minutes. Also, elderberry syrup. This is really, really good. It's high in antioxidants and other things that support the body. So go look up like what the elderberry can do for you. I was going to read you something out of a book that I have, and I dumped water all over the book. So the book is currently drying out. I hope it's okay. Probiotics. These are big for gut health. You need to have a healthy gut for the rest of your body to be healthy. Brain health, mental health, your immune system. So many things are tied into the gut. So probiotics are those healthy bacteria that you need to give you a healthy microbiome in your gut. Then you also want to think about prebiotics. Prebiotics are the food that feeds the probiotics. So when you can get something where those both are together, that's really good too. But you can also get prebiotics in some of the foods I mentioned just a minute ago. And again, just go do a search. This information is not hard to find. The book that I was going to read out of is called Optimize Your Health by Marie Ruggles. It's all about putting things in your kitchen cabinet to help you have a wellness option. So I highly recommend that book. It's been a fascinating read, and I'm only about halfway through it. Also, look at essential oils for helping promote wellness in your body and keeping you above that wellness line. Some ways that they can help keep your child well is by supporting their emotional health as well as their immune health. When our body is really stressed out and struggling with emotion, it struggles to stay well. It can affect our sleep. It can affect our hormones. It can affect our mental health. All of those things affect our immune system as well. So the body, you can't separate aspects of wellness. You have to look at it as like a 3-leg stool. You have your mental health, spiritual health, and physical health, and they all go together. Typical medical approach these days like to rip them apart and try to treat one without the other, and then your stool is unbalanced, and it's really hard to stay above the wellness line when you're missing 2/3 of the picture. Also, the Raindrop Technique. This is a essential oil technique that combines with some massage techniques as well. There's the rooster again. Sorry, you guys, that is completely distracting. But I love the Raindrop. It has some oils in it that are amazing for immune benefits. It also is great for when you're dealing with some type of discomfort. It's a wonderful collection of oils to have on hand, and then it has a slip that walks you through how to apply them. And the massage techniques, there's also a YouTube video playlist that Young Living Essential Oils has put out to teach you that technique. And that technique is specific to Young Living because Gary Young, who started the company, created it. So if you're looking for something like that, let me know. I'd be happy to get you some information on it. Then also lymphatic massage. This is super, super simple to do. It is literally just gently stroking across where the lymph is in your body. So lymph is everywhere. The lymphatic fluid is part of our immune system, kind of unofficially so. But unlike blood that gets pumped through our body, lymph just sits. It has to be moved by like movement of muscles or by gentle stroking over the skin. So one thing that I use all of the time is if my sinuses are wonky, I will take my fingers and put them just under my eye socket, close to my nose. You'll kind of find a little indentation right up in here. For those of you listening on the podcast, I'm sorry you can't see, but just kind of feel just under that bone below your eye. And I'll just put a little pressure and I'll rub on it for a minute or so, and then I will just gently drag that back towards my ears, like where my earlobe meets my face, and then I will drag it down my neck. And I will do that as many times as I need. And then I will also come up along the inside of my eyebrows and just kind of inside, again, like where that indentation is for my eye, there's some little dents here, and I'll work that too. That's also a sinus spot. So I'll work that and then drag it out along the eyebrows, down to that same location where my ear meets my face, and down along my neck. That is so, so helpful. And you don't need to use a lot of pressure. Light pressure works best. If your sinuses are really blocked up, you can put a little more pressure, but it doesn't have to be uncomfortable. I also really like to pair tea tree and cedarwood oil with that. You can dilute it down with a carrier oil. So coconut, avocado, grapeseed is great for the face. Put a drop of each oil in that carrier oil and then rub those along those areas as well. It really helps keep your sinuses as healthy as possible. So that's a great tip that I've learned from someone recently. And then also rest when children are sick, when any of us are sick, but especially when children are sick, because they're growing, and then their body also has this extra taxing of being sick, they need their rest. And I know that can be really hard to get them to do, and it's not necessarily just sleep, but just getting them to lay down. So if we need to watch a cartoon, or if we need to read a book, or whatever your kid may enjoy doing, just make sure they're getting some rest. And then last but not least is physical touch. I think part of the reason why this is so effective, at least for me personally, that physical touch makes me feel safe, and it just drops my stress levels. It elevates our happy hormones, serotonin, oxytocin. No, is that right? Serotonin, dopamine. I think forget the oxo, whatever. It's not coming to me. It didn't sound right. But serotonin and dopamine for sure. So that physical touch just helps me. There's a statistics that we need, excuse me, so many hugs a day. And I don't remember how many it was. It was like 8 to 12, I think. But I did look this up on PubMed to see if there was any studies on touch and wellness or healing. And there is a technique called healing touch that some natural-minded nurses practice, and they studied it with cancer patients, and many of those patients came back and said that they felt immediate pain reduction when this technique was done on them. So I thought that was really interesting. But those are the tips that I have for you today. I hope that was helpful. I'm going to put a link in the either comments below this video or the description on the podcast, and you can go check out a written kind of blog post that I have about some of my favorite essential oils that I use on my kiddo, and like why I will never be without them because they're so helpful in multiple ways. So if you want to check that out, I'll have that in the comments as well. But I hope you guys have a happy, healthy week, and that was helpful to you. We'll talk again soon.